welcome. I hope everyone is doing well. Super duper grateful for this opportunity to speak with you. So thank you for logging on. If you're watching this on a replay, make sure that you leave a comment, some hearts, a crown, or something just to let me know that you watched it. Hey, baby daddy, how you doing? I hope you are well. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit, what's up, Shantae, about the options that we have as we're going through this season where we're kind of reevaluating everything that has happened throughout the past year and making decisions about how we're going to move forward, making sure that we're aware of the options that we have as we move forward. And that we aren't removing things from our lives that we actually just kind of needed to tweak, because we have some options whenever we are in a situation where we realize something isn't working or something isn't going the way that we would have liked for it to go. I am waiting for my co-host to join before I get too deep into the topic, but that's just a little introduction. Whoop, there we are. What's up, Seven? Of what, I kind of wanted to talk to you all about today. So we're going to give him a couple of seconds to get on. Here we go. We'll get started. Hello, Socially Elite Boutique. I appreciate you for watching. Everyone else who has joined the live, super duper grateful. Hey, Steven, how are you?
Hey, what's going on?
What's up? Super grateful for you joining me on today and just your partnership in this endeavor in general. Just thinking about how we got here and showing some gratitude for the fact that we are still here and just that we have this opportunity and that we have an audience in order to present this to, and that we have community in our own right in this sense, right? So super duper grateful for that. What I wanted to talk about today is something that I've been thinking about. So, we're in this season where it's time to take inventory, to review different things that are going on in our life and make decisions about how we want to move forward, right? Mm-hmm. So when we are making those decisions about how we want to move forward, I think that it's important that we have a set of different courses that we can take forward, right? Sometimes I think that in my past, I've kind of gotten caught up in if something isn't working, that means we just need to trash it. And that's the only option. That means we can't do it anymore. Yeah. And it's got to just, we're not doing that anymore. But what I'm noticing as I'm evolving and that I'm growing is that a lot of times I put a lot of work into manifesting what it is that I have, and necessarily cutting something isn't the action that I want to take. Sometimes I need to compromise. Yeah. Sometimes I need to make small changes. Sometimes I need to just reevaluate my approach, not throw everything in the trash and start over. And so that's what I wanted to talk to the people today about and get some insight from you, right? Because when I look at you, I see, this masterpiece, right? But I know that there was a process in order to get to this place. And so especially when it comes to the way that you conduct yourself in business and the way that you're growing your coaching business. And I just want to talk about when you realize something isn't working, what different courses you take and how you decide what action to take moving forward, right? So for myself, I am just kind of in a place of okay, I figured out what I need to discontinue. I figured out what I want to continue and what I want to change. And I figured out what's going right. And so now I'm looking at those things. Well, I've already kind of looked at what was going right and what was going wrong and decided how I got to those places, right? Yeah. And now I'm looking at the things that I feel like are kind of on board and just kind of tweaking the way that I approach them, trying to figure out, okay, well, what can I change in my approach or in my involvement in order to bring fruit that I actually want to eat into my life. And so I'm finding that I need to make some compromises, right? I was just talking to someone about how whenever we decide that we want to align our path with someone else, we can't come into it with a rigid idea about, well, it's got to look this way because this is what I want for myself. Well, that's great, but there are other people involved. So you have to be willing to, if you want to partner with these people, take upon some of their ideas, some of their desires, and begin to merge those two together. So that's where I'm at in my life. I'm in this place of okay, how do I make compromises about what I want to see and who I can partner with in order to bring those to fruition? So I guess a more concise question that I can ask you is, number one, how do you decide whether or not to cut or to compromise? And then when a decision is made to compromise, like what has that looked like for you?
Oh God. First off, I heavily align with this struggle. Fuck, man. My fear of rejection developed into such a rigid approach to this. Like it at first it was definitely in the fear of being the thing that didn't work. If something made me feel like it might not work, I'll be like, fuck it all, and it proved to be nowhere near as helpful as I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I've matured by the grace of the Most High in this concept, it's so funny you fucking said this. Goodness gracious. The first question wasn't whether when do I choose whether to cut or compromise, right? That was the second one, right?
The first question is, how do you choose whether this is something that you cut or something that you compromise? And then in the event that there is a compromise needed, how do you approach that?
Okay, cool. Deciding whether to cut or compromise. Probably I'd say the best. Well, I wouldn't say the best, but the most used perspective that I depend on when deciding whether to compromise or cut is the benefit to my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot to do with it. I find myself most times having this struggle in personal relationships. Business, I'm a bit more shrewd. Both ways. Shit, sometimes I deal with your bullshit because I want the money. You know what I'm saying? And for me, I'm like, fuck it. Like, I ain't tripping. This is business. But personal relationships wise, whether it's intimate or platonic, I really take a step back and evaluate whether or not this relationship is giving to my purpose. And when I say my purpose, I think that can mean a lot of things because I feel like you have a purpose ordained to you by whatever you claim to be a higher power. And I'm about to answer your question just a second, Miss Eve. I see you down there. But also just the purpose that I feel like we all have in being the best we can be, regardless of how specific like that version of you should be applied to the rest of things, being the absolute best you can be. And I've found myself trying to compromise solely because of my feelings. I'm a very emotional man, and I prioritize my emotions a bit too much. In my opinion, I think I do it a bit too much. So, man, when I'll give an example because I don't want to speak too generally. Say if I have a friend, right, male or female, it doesn't matter.
That's what I'm always trying to do. You never tell your business. We want to hear some of your business. Like, this gonna get him. You're gonna have to tell his business on this one.
Okay. I don't mind that. I think I'm also the type of person that I feel like you've seen this. Like, you gotta ask me. If you ask, it cool. But if you don't ask, fuck that. I ain't saying nothing. But say if I have a friend, right? And a lot of times, and I feel like this is not just me, but I can only speak from my perspective. A lot of times relationship decisions seem to be very cumulative. And by what I mean by that is it's hardly ever one event, one decision. It's normally a buildup of discord, a buildup of certain things that happen, and then you make a decision about the relationship. So let's say I have a friend and I begin to notice things about their personality that don't necessarily align with where I see myself going. I think a lot of us are going through this right now, and I don't know what's pulling me in this direction, but I've been through it a lot, and I think I'm kind of in my finalizing pieces. Like I got a couple people I got to let go, but I'm leading up to it because I don't want to be so much of a dick. You know what I'm saying? But in that situation, I think compromise almost always comes first in a sense because your reflex within yourself may be to cut, but we hardly ever cut shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody does that shit. As much as they want to talk shit, like nobody's just cutting shit off the second something don't align with them, you know? So I think in the experience of, because the compromise isn't always direct either. A lot of the times we're compromising within ourselves to see how we can, okay, maybe I can change how I look at this, or maybe I'm being a little too hard, right? And I think that once you reach a place within yourself where the compromise begins to compromise your integrity or morality, that's when a cut becomes necessary. I think if the compromise, now, mind you, a cut can be necessary outside of that. So don't quote me on that like that's the only time you should cut a motherfucker. I'm just saying that that's the end all be all. If that shit is going against your morality or integrity in any form or fashion, I don't give a fuck what it is. A cut is necessary. But let's just say I had an experience where a friend of mine treated me great, but I didn't like how he treated other people. Mm-hmm. And it took years. It took years because we were really close, like really, really close. And I began to see how this person treated individuals that they either didn't value as much or didn't see that they could benefit from as much. And I actually had a friend of theirs that knew them before me tell me, they'll never do you like that. They'll never do. And I was like, I think my ego kind of got stroked a bit, but at the same time, it was like, why the fuck you say that? You know? So then it made me really step back and look at what the truth was. And I think a lot of times when it comes to compromising or cutting, that's a big part of the process, getting to the truth of the matter. Because a lot of times our perspective isn't the truth. Our perspective is only a buildup of our experiences and how we want to see and feel about things. So I don't want to run on this shit for too long because God knows
why not? We got all day.
You said what?
So why not? We got all day. We ain't going nowhere.
But yeah, it began to build up, and I started to see, like, as I progressed within myself, that's good. Because, okay, I said the compromise starts within, right? And I think the process will take you on a journey because through this effort, or whether it's conscious or unconscious of compromising, there will be things that shift within yourself, right? Like there will be perspectives that either change or stand strong. And while this process is going on, I think a lot of it is very unconscious. And for me, as the process was happening and I was looking at my relationship with this person and this person, just period, from a different perspective outside of what I felt, because I love this person, you know, like I got mad love for you. I feel like shit, if it comes down to it, it's me and you against the world in a lot of senses, right? But that didn't align with what I was developing into, right? I think when you first come into contact with something and what you're meant to become isn't always, hardly ever, the same thing. And if it's not aligned, it's just not aligned. So it's just time for you to separate, right? And that's what it kind of came to with that relationship. It was time and development, and it eventually became a cut, right? And I think that I would tell any viewers that might be going through a process like that to there's a line to be walked, because don't judge yourself harshly for the time that you take in this process, but also, I don't want to use the word shrewd again. Like, don't be afraid to be cutthroat with your progress either. Like, don't feel like you cutting something is a display of a lack of love or empathy, because that's only a display of the love and empathy that you're having for yourself and where you're going. So, I think that's the first question. What was the second one?
So the first question was, how do you determine to cut or to compromise, right? And I feel like you answered that. And then the second question is, if you decide to compromise, how do you move forward?
If you decide to compromise, how do you move forward? I have relationships that I've definitely compromised in, and if you do decide to compromise, you move forward. One of the main things I would say is prioritizing communication. And this can be a very cliche topic, right? But you have to prioritize it, because if you don't, then the compromise will begin to work against the development of you in the situation. Right? Like, say, I don't know, hell, let's just pull out a random rabbit out the hat. Say you and your man, right? Fucking, he always kicking it with the boys, and he never really has time for you. He leaves, he goes to work. After work, he goes and kicks it with the friends. He's coming home. He doesn't really have energy or attention for you. And that's developing into a state of you feeling alone, right? You feel detached from the relationship. You start to look at it like, is this for me, or do I want to communicate this, or can this compromise? And you begin to ask yourself all these questions. Now, you bring it to him. Right, it might be an argument at first, but then it develops into a conversation where, okay, baby, I'm gonna make sure, right, I attend to our relationship more, and I'll spend less time there and more here, because this is important to me, right? So I think communication and patience also is going to be very, very imperative to a compromise, because a lot of times, depending on where the compromise stems from within us, we think that the results should be instant. And that's never the case. I don't give a fuck who it is, how much they love you, how important something is. It's never going to be instant. The decision may be instant, but the results in the form that you want probably won't be. So I would say prioritizing communication, and patience, but also setting a standard for yourself. So that way there's never a threshold that you cross into a downward spiral for yourself.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that.
What did you say earlier?
She was just saying that, oh, whoopsie. The love of your time. I'm sure he will hop back on. Hopefully I'll be able to pull him back up. As he was talking, I wanted to go into what sometimes cutting people off turns into in my personal experience. I know, right? I don't know how to get you back on. Okay, boom, there you go. We're getting 7 back. All right. Sometimes what cutting people off turns into in your experience is a repeat of a cycle, right? Because whether we want to take full accountability for it or not, everybody that is in our lives, everybody that we come in contact with, every circumstance that we encounter is a reflection of what's within us, right? So if there's activity with a person that you're connected to that you feel isn't aligned with you or doesn't, match where it is that you're trying to go, then that means that there's something within yourself that needs to be adjusted, right? So you can cut this person off all you want to, but at the end of the day, if it's something within you that attracted that person, they will be back in another form. You just get the same energy in a different body. And so when we're going about saying that we want to cut people off, I think something that's very important for us to consider is, what do we need to cut off within ourselves, right? And a lot of time, if we can identify how this energy pattern is emitting from us, We can tweak that energy pattern within us, and then the relationship that we're having is either automatically going to be healed or it's automatically going to end because we're out of the cycle that requires that relationship. I think it's so easy sometimes for us to get this external perspective of other people and say, oh, this person, they believe this and I don't believe that, or that doesn't align with what I got going on, or I don't like the way this person does this or that. When really at the end of the day, it's something within us that's attracting that. And if we don't take the time to turn that same microscope inside and see, okay, well, what is it within me that's pulling this energy towards me? We end up in these cycles, and then we don't understand, well, why do I keep running into people who do this? Or why do I keep ending up in this same circumstance with people? Because it ain't them, it's you. That's why. You know? And so a lot of times what that compromise looks like for me is me taking a step back and really doing that introspection and that look within myself of, okay, if this is the fruit that I'm getting, where is the seed? Where is the seed within me that's like what you were saying, attracting someone to me that feels like they can treat people inequitably? Like what is it within me that's attracting that energy towards me, and really taking a look at that and making sure that I'm making the proper adjustments that I need to make within myself so that I don't end up just, again, attracting that energy back into my life, right? I recently made well, I don't want to say recently. I don't even know how to tie the connection. It's a romantic connection, right? And so, I'm poly and I like open relationships and I don't like to say titles and all of that good stuff, right? Yeah. But I think I was doing myself a great disservice of not consistently interacting with a person because I wasn't able to identify patterns within myself, right? And so now I have this connection and all of these things are coming up for me to address, and I can either be like, oh, this person is triggering me and this is toxic and da 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 da, or I can own the fact that, bitch, you got a whole lot of motherfucking triggers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really just have a lot of work to do outside of the fact that I've done a lot of work to come this far. Like, evolution is an ongoing process. And so I'm at a place where, yeah, I can cut this person off and not deal with this person. But then those triggers that existed before that person got here. You know what I'm saying? I am the one with the power in order to really take the opportunity that I have when I'm triggered to go within and say, wait a minute, why am I triggered by this? Why is this bothering me that this person has this opinion or perceives me in this way or is responding to me in this way? Instead of saying, oh, it's this person, let me just get rid of them.
Yeah. Oof, man. That was a beauty to hear a woman respond to triggers that way. Don't think I've ever heard that. Don't think I've ever heard that one. I ain't gonna lie. For real.
Well, you'll be surprised. I think a lot of us that are in pursuit of mastering and crafting beautiful, divine, feminine energy within ourselves are starting to realize that triggers really are a gift. Yeah. They really are. Every time that you're around someone that triggers you, that person is handing you a gift. And what you decide to do with that gift is up to you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. How you decide to perceive it is completely up to you. But every time that I'm in a situation and I don't feel safe, or I feel like I need to defend myself, or I feel like I've been disrespected, or, you know what I'm saying? Those are opportunities for me to go within and be like, whoa, what is this? What do I have going on? Where did I learn that this was problematic? You know, to really do that inner work that needs to be done to evaluate your programming. And then once you're cognizant of the issue, deciding, okay, well, what's the path forward? I think a lot of times we really get caught up in reprogramming, right? And like doing the work that we need to do in order to choose something different to think, but we never do the work to release the existing thought pattern.
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like, you know? And I think, that it's very important that, you don't want to just put in programming over what you already have there. You want to remove that old programming, like really identify where it came from, tell yourself a new narrative, and, you know what I'm saying? Then put something new in, as opposed to saying, oh, well, no, this is the new thing that I want to believe. You have to address that original belief, where that came from, and, like really reframe that for yourself. So, yeah, it's work. But we doing it. and I'm surrounded coincidentally by a lot of women who have noticed that, these triggers are a gift.
Yeah. Nah, I think that's it's so important to how we're developing as a race, period, just humans. Like I'm actually really excited to see how the children of tomorrow develop. Like I'm very excited. Like when I look back on the community narratives that were present during my childhood, they differ so heavily from the many things that are pushed into the just the atmosphere, period. Like we really making a lot of progress. Like as much as you know our mishaps are condemned, I think I'm very, very proud of us. I think that there are lots of communities and perspectives that are on the uprising for the greater benefit of us all. And that's another reason why I feel like individuals like us who are at that age between like 25 and 40, it's very, very important for us to connect with each other deeply and align with each other. Not only connect, but to really align with where we are and where we're going, because that has such a trickle down effect on our youth, whether it's adolescents, whether it's young adults, whether it's babies. Like I'm very excited to see how things progress and change, because they would like for you to think that shit is getting worse. I don't think so. Me personally, I don't think so. I think in some areas it's gonna get worse before it get better, but for you excluding us elders, I'm not excluding y'all, but I do see a low percentage of direct involvement from individuals over certain ages. Like there seems to be this energy of I wouldn't even say, I think there's just a detachment from the mediums that we use to communicate these days, which even that shit is changing. Because I was just talking, I think it was not yesterday, the day before, about how on holidays. Now this was kind of a different perspective, but it definitely applies to what she was just saying. I was like, isn't it fucking crazy how at holidays, right, Christmas and Thanksgiving, there used to be such a narrative from the older generation. Oh, the kids need to get off their phones. Y'all always on your phone. You always. Nowadays, old folks is on their phone and on social media just as much, if not more. It amazed the fuck out of me. But before I could condemn it in any way, I ended up talking to an older gentleman who was very much so, man, I'm finna start me a TikTok channel and I want to do this and do that and do this. And I was just like, wow, it's progressing to a place. And I think that where we are in the present moment, it's a nice place to be in as far as the steering wheel is concerned. We haven't gone too far in either direction to turn back. So I'm very excited. I think shit, on one end we could end up like the fucking Wally movie, or on another end, we might end up really using this to connect with each other and do a lot of amazing things. So I'm very excited. I'm excited to see what the compromise develops into, or if we'll end up just straight up cutting a lot of shit off. Because some things do need to be cut, but I think just amongst us as people, a lot of things can be compromised. And out of fear, most things are being cut. And I think it's not even a real cut, because you can't make shit go nowhere. You just stop dealing with it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm excited, and I'm very, very thankful for this conversation, because it's sparking a lot of just thoughts in me about how I'm dealing with this now. And I love how you touched on coming to grips with what's going on now and removing it and getting rid of it and moving on from it before you start to try to instill something completely new. Like, for sure. Because I think a lot of us are just painting over. We're just painting over. Like, you still fucked up. You still hurt. But now you writing affirmations. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's cool. That's a great method. But it's like, have you gotten to the point within yourself that you realize the affirmations that you were telling yourself to even get you to where you are? And then how do you combat that? You know, like, because I've seen friends of mine, like close friends, start to take on different methods of things, but you end up having to circle back because you didn't realize you was cutting corners, you know, but like you was taking a shortcut in a sense, because it's not a thing of going straight to a solution. You have to really come to terms with what the problem is. And a lot of times that's work that a lot of us don't want to do. That shit is a long, grueling process sometimes. Like, so I get it, you know? Oh, wow. I just got a DM from some random lady saying that my best friend from high school wants to get in touch with me.
Oh, look at that.
Like, it just surprised the hell out of me, but made me really happy. Like, wow. I had just got at his baby mama, like, last September, because that's when his birthday is. And I was like, hey, man, have you talked to him? I don't know where he at. He's not a social media type of guy at all. That was crazy as hell. That was really cool. I just had to share that. That literally just happened. That shit popped up at the top of my screen. You said
like what you were saying about, I said, and as you just called for community, like what you were saying about the age range that you gave or whatever. I don't know if it's specifically an age range so much as, a mindset, right? Indeed. I feel like there is an aspect of age to it, because when I think about my sister who's 10 years my senior, I feel like they took a very individualistic approach to their spirituality because the community that their parents had access to trash. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't have a community.
I agree.
They don't feel, a part of it, right? Because I think about like the churches that we grew up in, and I think our approach has been, okay, that community, not so much for us. Let's create our own, as opposed to, well, I'm gonna just figure this out by myself, right? Yeah. In which there is like that aspect to everyone's spiritual journey where you have to isolate and like figure out how to be who you are before you start connecting to other people and like learn your own energy and get to know yourself and do the self-discovery, right? There's that aspect of it. But then once you move past that root energy of figuring out who you are, and then that sacral energy of figuring out your divinity and how you want to express it, the next thing is community. That's the next step. And I think a lot of times as we get older, it's easy to just stay in that stage of divinity, right? Because it's like, oh, okay, I figured out how to manipulate my reality and do things the way that I want to do them. What do I even need these other people for? We block ourselves off from access to higher levels of consciousness when we decide not to connect to community, right? Because consciousness is collective. And the more people that you surround yourself with that are like-minded and have access to higher consciousness, the higher your own potential. And I think sometimes some of those older individuals from previous generations don't know how to best utilize community in order to expand themselves, because the examples that they had for them set for community weren't necessarily beneficial to them. And they aren't aware of these new communities that are out here, because we're like, look, we're making our own, you know what I'm saying? But it's so many different ways that you can connect to people other than what your parents or your older siblings and aunts and uncles did during their times. Like, there are just so many options now and ways to connect with people that don't require you to compromise who you are or co-sign other people's bullshit.
Man, nah, for real. I know we kind of hitting our little time, but you know what? I found, and I feel like this was always kind of the narrative around it, but just from my perspective, what I saw ended up being a very powerful cultivating AIDS community. I think it was weed.
Thanks.
If I'm not tripping, like, I've never, ever, I don't even think. No, not even in church, because church then becomes this whole thing of judgment in its worst form. Now, while in its best form, it's fucking wonderful and it's praise and worship and community and rejoice, but in its worst form, it can become very, very cliquey, judgmental, and a lot of things. But I've never seen that shit with cannabis ever. I have connected with individuals that I would have never even said 2 words to, just off. Oh, you smoke? Oh shit, you know what I'm saying? And then y'all end up smoking together, and there's this opening of the heart, this opening of the mind that is all of a sudden so accepting and so willing to hear and listen and be patient and understanding with. And I think that our generation especially was a big, what's the word I'm looking for? We played a big part in blowing that shit up. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I think the generation before us, it was pothead, you know what I'm saying? Fucking lazy, stoner, like, oh hell no. But then in our generation, there was a development of acceptance to it. But I think there was also a spike in, I wouldn't call it outcast, but I think society would. Like there was a spike in outcasts. You had a spike in people that started to ask questions, a spike in people that wanted to be themselves and separate from the bullshit of the group. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's been such a blessing to witness those individuals over the span of like the last 10 to 25 years develop into people who use that form of cultivating community, and it's become so much more. Now you have so many little branches of that tree. Like I've seen so much, and I think I'm very interested to see what the next medium is going to be. Right. And I think social media is definitely playing its role, but I'm just interested. I don't know if it's going to be dance as far as TikTok is concerned, or shit, hatred for the government, whatever the hell it's going to be. But I'm very interested to see, because I can for sure say I saw weed play the biggest role. Like I have, man. Remember how we reacted when we found out, oh, you smoke? It was like I already fucked with you, but then it's like, damn, all right, cool. There's just this, it's like an unspoken understanding and language between people that share that experience. And while I think that applies to many other experiences, I would definitely give cannabis a lot of credit.
Facts. And like what Eve is saying, and I was thinking about, like, I think a lot of it has to do with the level of information that our generation has. Like what she was saying about people in previous generations being afraid that they would be denied access to jobs, and not being able, girl, we didn't figure out ways around that. We didn't figure out ways around all of that, and so I think that there's just a greater level of knowledge of, first of all, how to set an intention right when you're smoking, and how to choose products that will actually not have you stuck in the couch, and like give you productivity, and just like we just have a different level of access to information than what we had before, that puts us, like you said, in a better position to build community. I feel like we could probably go on for another hour or 60 now about cannabis, because that's a topic that never ends. But I do kind of want to
speak tonight. I hope you speak tonight. I don't know how it's gonna go, man. If y'all still on here, y'all gotta come fuck with us, man. Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. Central Time on Zoom. Y'all can witness this beautiful queen and all of her splendor and all of her ideas and everything that she has to give to us. Hey, man, I'm just here taking it in, receiving it. I'm so thankful to be a part. Forever, this was great.
Yeah, this was super duper dope. Definitely anyone who joined afterwards, make sure that you go back, watch from the beginning. It is so imperative that we make the right decisions, or decisions that benefit us, right? I don't want to say right or wrong, because even when we make the wrong decision, it works for our highest good, right? But that we're making those decisions consciously, right? And we understand the benefits of compromising as opposed to cutting, and what cutting should look like if we're going to cut. So I love each of you. I love you too, Eve. I'm so grateful for your participation.
Man, and all the what? Man, please come on every time, because you were great. We gotta have her hop on or something and give a perspective. For real.
We definitely want to bring you up. So on Monday or Wednesday of next week, if you're available and you come through, be camera ready, Steve. You know what I'm saying? So we can hop you up here and just have a discussion with you and let you contribute to the conversation because you know you family, always family. So.
Yes, ma'am.
But we're going to hop out of here. As always, if you're interested in joining any of the communities that Seven and I are a part of, reach out to us. We will talk to you about streams of consciousness and your access to that. Right now, we have an opportunity for you to come for 4 weeks for free, for, no type of commitment, no anything, and just come and check it out and see what we got going on. So if you're interested, she said she stayed ready. Okay, but we're going to see you next week then.
I bet.
We are here every Monday, every Wednesday at 1:11, and we will see you guys next time.
Yes, ma'am. I'll see you in a few hours. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye.